Hello there, my name is Abdullah Shibani, and this is my video submission for the Computer Games Development course, Assignment 1, where we are required to review a book and prepare a presentation and explain what the pages that were assigned to us discuss. Okay, so we'll be talking about three things in this presentation. We'll be giving a short introduction to the book, and then defining what is a game from the author's point of view, and then we'll be giving a brief history of games. So let's start with the introduction. So because this is the first part of the entire book review series, we'll be discussing a little bit about the book itself. So the title of the book is Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design, the second edition. So there are two editions of the book. This book was written by Scott Rogers, and it was published in 2010. This was the first edition. It mainly focuses on 3D platformers and games. The book consists of over 500 pages, and it costs around $40 to purchase online. So it is important to note that this book is for almost complete beginners that are interested in the game industry, as it highlights what is a game, or what are games, instead of explaining how games work. Now, let's talk about what is a game from the author's point of view. Now, there are many scholars or many researchers that define a game as players in conflict with each other, or playing a game is a voluntary effort to overcome unnecessary obstacles. But the author disagreed, and he put it very simply. A game is an activity that requires at least one person, doesn't necessarily need two people, and the game has a set of rules that the player or players have to follow. And the game or activity will consist of a win or lose condition or conditions. To put it very simply, for instance, one player can play a ball by himself. The rules could be that the ball must not touch the floor. And if he, for instance, kicks the ball 10 times in a row without touching the floor, that could be a victory condition. And if he doesn't, that could be a lose condition. Now let's talk about the brief history of video games. So in the 1950s, games were played by very few people on very large computers, and not everyone had access to that. In this stage, or in this era, TVs, 3D movies, and rock and roll were very popular. And then in the 1950s, we have the development of the first arcade game, which was Computer Space. It was developed by Ted Dabney and Nolan Bushnell. And then in the 1980s, we saw the development of games that use vector graphics and raster graphics. So vector graphics are games that use bright and striking images, such as Battlezone, Tempest, and Star Wars. And then raster graphics are games that use spawned cartoon-inspired characters, such as Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. That's the end of this presentation.
A very good day to Dr. Sharizal and Dr. Edora. My name is Abraham Zilong from Session 01. So I will do a short review on the book Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design, which is a good book for game development students. I reviewed 10 pages from page 11 to page 20. So I love the book because it is very easy to understand, and he used a gamified term, the level 1, welcome noobs. I will review this chapter. So in these pages, the author cover a little bit on the brief history of video game, where the video game in the old times they use vector and raster. Raster uses a blocky and build based on pixel, and then the vector they build using the curve and lines. Evolution of video games or arcades. So video games in the old times start with arcade. So this is very nostalgic. The machines that can be found in a theme park or the pub or the club. The player has a good fun time with these machines, the cabinet, cocktail table, and arcade cockpit. But slowly, it is declining due to home gaming technology, and it is replaced with some alternative like the redemption machine. But it is not the end of the video game. And then the LAN gaming center is slowly built, and then the video game is slowly revived again. So the arcade machine can be found in the theme park. For example, the Genting theme park. And then to reminiscence the memory, a museum is built for video game where there's a lot of arcade machines. And then video games slowly evolve into the home console. For example, Nintendo, Xbox, PS1, where players have to control using the console and connected to a TV or without. And then it slowly also evolved into a handheld gaming where, uh, for example, the PSP and Game Boy. And then video games further evolved into a digital distribution where the video game is become easily downloadable from like Play Store and Internet. And then computer gaming become popular. So here are some game genres that cover in the book. This is just the iceberg tip of the iceberg. And then from this book, I learned that a game is not developed by one person, but a group of a big game development team consists of designers, producers, programmers, and artists, of which they have their very own roles. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Greetings to lecturer and my friends. This is the video presentation of the assignment 1, Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design. My name is Adrian Teowita, and the page assigned to me is page 21 to page 30. So let's move on to level 1, welcome notes. So there are a lot of jobs in the game industry. One of them is the tester. And the role of the tester is to test out the game for a very long time and to check is there any problems of the game. And they also need to do quality assurance to make sure there are no major bugs before publishing the game. Next, composer, they need to create the music for the game, and they can create through keyboard, synthesizer, or live orchestra. Next, sound designer, which is different from the composer. The role is to create the sound effect for the game, such as cooking the food or knocking the door. So the importance of that, they can provide a positive feedback for the gamers. Next, writer. The role of the writer, actually, they are freelancers, and they are not the one to create the initial idea for the games. But the importance of the writer is that they can rewrite the story or direct the story flow of the game. Next, we move to the section of game publishing. In a game publishing team, there is product manager, which is to determine production priorities and also act as a link between the game development team and the game publishing team. Creative manager, the role is basically a game designer and also a writer, but works in game publishing team. The importance of that, the creative manager play the game builds to make sure the game is stick to the core value, and also he or she should give the advice to the game development team. Art director, which is to create a game art, and the importance of that, an art director should create a unique visual style and the visual language for the game. Technical director, the role is to recommend the tools and software to the game development team, and also he or she can do due diligence, which is to make sure the team is qualified to make the game. Last but not least, the marketing team. The role is to promote the game to the world, design the packaging materials, and create the promotional materials. So one thing to be noticed that the marketing team should play the game before they do all the roles assigned. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Ada Torina and I will review the level up the guide to great video game design book from page 31 and 40. So this when you start to generate new ideas, you can try to take a walk, track or shower, and you can try to attend a lecture that related to game design, so you can generate new perspective and techniques. And then you can try to play a game that preferably a bad one, so you can identify the flaws of the game, and you can explore a variety of different games that can raise your understanding of game design principle, and you have to follow your passion. You can try to make project that exciting you, so you have to stay engaged and motivated. So as getting ahead of the game, so you have the predecessor, where it's one of the keys to create game design, and it is the gameplay design referred to earlier games. So one of the example of evolution of platformer is that Super Mario Bros. To the Super Mario 64. So basically Super Mario Bros. Is a 2D game with tight control, and then the Super Mario 64 is influenced by the Super Mario Bros. Where it comes by creating the 3D game environment with full control and has dynamic camera that can adjust the player movement. So this is the ways to brainstorm on the ideas of creating a cool game. So obviously we need to have a working brain, and then we have something to write with, like a pen or pencil, and then something to write on, for example, the paper or whiteboard. And then we need a quiet workplace to focus on, and then sometimes it's be helpful to have the collaborators that has different skills and ideas. So how to overcome the writer's block? We can try to narrow our focus and break down to the smaller parts so it will be manageable. And then try to take a walk or exercise so it will help stimulate your brain and bring new ideas. We can take a break and deal with the things that bothering us, and then prioritize what exciting you, but careful with the deadlines. And then change the environment to less distracting and try to find inspirations from existing works. So what is fun in the game design? The subjectivity of fun is different for some people, and it will make it hard to define the fun in game design. And second, it will be challenging in copying gameplay style, and the game developers also loss of objectivity after repeating the testing and also the production of the same game. So I think that's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Aini Shakira binti Muhammad Yazid, and today I want to present the level up book summary from page 41 until 50. Firstly, about the fun element in game. Gamers just want good game, but there is no specific way to guarantee that the game will be fun. The theory of unfun state that start with a fun idea. As you work on your game, if something feels boring or annoying, remove it. After discard all the unfun stuff, only the fun remains. Unfun stuff happen because of the developers doesn't see that unfun element as problem, ignoring player feedback and not having a clear goals. Taking Asgard Wrath 2, for example, with its irritating invisible walls blocking path and no ways to ask for hints when players stuck in puzzle. Next, storytelling in games serve two main purposes: keeping players interested and giving them something to talk about after they have finished playing. The classic story setup begins with a hero who had desire, then event throws the obstacle in the way. Hero tries to overcome, then reversal of the fortune that make hero more trouble, and finally resolve. One stand-out game in this style is a Journey to Foundation, which tells the good game story about the adventure to space region that have never explored and based on the Foundation book written by Isaac Asimov. Great video game story shares certain key elements. First, there's a player exploration, like when Little Red Riding Hood goes through the forest to collect stuff. Then there are first enemy encounters such as meeting with the wolf, getting mechanism like reaching grandma's house, and this is the signal progression to the next level. Next, identity questioning at depth, like figuring out who grandma really is. Finally, there are boss fight like taking on the big bad wolf, which bring everything to the climax. Lastly, understanding the difference between the production triangle and the triangle of weirdness is important. The production of triangles sets limits based on practically, but sometimes developer needs to get weird to be creative. That's where the triangle of weirdness comes in, covering characters, activities, and game world. And that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to my lecturers and fellow friends. I'm Amira, and in this video, I will summarize on what I have learned based on book called Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design from page 51 until 60. So first, we all know storyline is very important in creating a game, and the story need to always be in service of the gameplay. So the first tips on how to make the story more appealing is by providing details, by revealing a deeper story details to player without intruding on the main story. So next, make sure the game story is revealed through gameplay and level design to prevent players from skipping it entirely and miss the story point. And lastly, start your story as late into the action as possible. So next, time to wrap it up or ending the games. So the recommendation time to end the game is when where you feel that you have left the players feeling satisfied. So let them feel as they accomplish everything they needed to do during the game, or even offer extra experience so that players can continue playing after the story has ended, such as multiple ending and mini games. And next, a game by any other name or giving the title naming for your game. So there are several ways to name your game, which are by creating a literary action or cool title, funny title, a purple cow title, which means a title that captures your curiosity, dramatic title, and referential title, which refers to you, which refers that you have no idea what it is unless you play it. So, but no matter what naming convention you use, it is always better to keep the title shorter than longer ones. And lastly, creating a character that players care about. So, a way to get the player care about a character is to use a Yorda effect. So, what is Yorda effect? So, Yorda is portrayed as a mostly helpless character, and her survival is critical to the player's success. So, the character needs to offer limited assistance to the player in the form of healing, assistance in combat, providing extra armor, or solving puzzles. So in this way, it will create a protective relationship in which the player comes to genuinely care about the welfare of the character. Or even make sure that the player spends some time with the character, even if only for a little while. So that's all for my video for today. Thank you for watching.
So good day everyone, I'm Amasi and I will be presenting for page 61 until 70 for Level Up the Guide to Great Game Design book. Now I will continue for the game's character tips and lessons in this level. So there are three things for character. The first one is the character's actions are defined by personality. For example, SpongeBob is a fun-loving and selfless character which often leaves his action annoy his neighbor. So if you start with your character's personality, you will end up with interesting animation and gameplay. The second one is the character can have more than one and often conflicting motivations. Lastly, naming your characters correctly so that the name suits your character personality. So these are some advices when writing games for kids. The first one is avoid making game story too simple, and this is the most common mistake encountered. Next, teach player things without knowing. Don't be afraid to educate as well as entertain. So there are some terms using when you are writing licenses. The first one is license game, which creates a game based on pre-existing intellectual property. Next one is property, which the characters are licensed by publisher or developer that have to pay to use. Licensor refers to the group or individual who own the property, whereas the licensee refers to the person who paid to use the property in the game. So these are some tips on working on licensed games. First, find out about the detail of the license by going as deep as possible, and then respect the license by find ways to make it your own. So don't be afraid to bring your own interest to the part as it may fit in better to the brand license. Moving on to the next level, we will be discuss about the game design document which is GDD. But before that, let us discuss on step in making a game. Firstly, having a game design that not only covers what is in your game, but also how it can be made. Next, gather the things we require such as gameplay elements, developers, and rec tools. Then having a game production that contributes effort in getting everything in and running well. Last but not least, polishing the game and scratching the bugs over the time. There are 4 documents to guide you towards GDD, which are the one sheet, the 10 pager, the B chart, and the game design document. Bear in mind that use right body fonts and appropriate font size. Avoid using fancy fonts and keep things simple and legible. The first step to create GDD is the one sheet, which is a single page overview of your game where very people will read it. These are the basic requirements should be included, which are the game title, intended game system, and other requirements as shown here. So there are 6 ratings for ASRB ratings, which are early childhood, everyone, adults only 18 plus, and so on. Early childhood is mostly for baby games, whereas AO rating is the equivalent of X rating in firm which most publishers and developers won't consider. Unique selling points are the bullet points that help your game to stand out from crowd. 5 USB in a game can help you to get readers excited about the unique game features without going into details. Competitive products refer as the released games that have similar game design as yours. Choose the games that people are very familiar or successful to help readers understand what your game is going to be. Publishers and marketers are very aware of how well or poorly a game sold. So that's all for my part. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Arvin. My material is 820EC0016, and I'll be explaining about writing the GTD step 2, the 10-pager, the rule of threes, and 10-pager outline. So for the rule of threes, the first example gives readers an idea for what we are talking about and still can mislead them. For the second example, they can contrast or compare with the first example. And for the third example we are giving, they shouldn't feel binary or contract with the example because they know that it is the right one. They got your point of view, and more than that will make it too boring. So let's see the 10-page outline. So for the first page, you gotta have your title page, you gotta have your intended game system, target age of players, intended ESRB rating, and projected ship date. These are very important, and your game logo should be proper with the genre of your game. Second page, you gotta have your game outline, you gotta give a game story summary, which is important, and your game flow should briefly describe the flow of the game. And in page 3, your character, you gotta have characters in your game so that your game can be more interesting. And if there's no character, there's no game. So what's the character's backstory? How did you end up in the predicament? What's your personality type? All about the character. And then for the gameplay, start with the gameplay and the detail how the sequence of the play is presented. You have slow story flow all from A to Z. And for page 5, the game world, the concept of your game, in which place, in which situation, or in which kind of place it's gonna be playing at. Like for example, the solar system there. And for gameplay mechanics, it is an item or element that players interact with to create or aid with gameplay. For example, the collectibles or the power-ups, like the mushroom will give you extra health, or the sun gives you extra power, and then the diamond gives you cash. And enemies are one of the important elements in all games. If there's no enemy, there's no interesting games. So there should be a boss character where you have the boss character has a lot of lives and the player has to defeat. And in page 9, you got to talk about the multiplayer and bonus materials, like how many players are there, how many players can be played, and bonus materials such as the incentive to play your game again, how will achievements be awarded. And in page 10, monetization, it is becoming increasingly important to game developers and publishers. So you got to think about whether you got to put in money for the players to purchase some kind of features or anything to make your game extra modified. And yeah, thank you, that's all.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone, my name is Aznia Sabrina. So today I will do a book review from page 81 until 90. So it is about strategies for communicating game design ideas. We discuss various techniques for effectively communicating game design ideas such as storyboards, diagrams, animatic, bit chart, and team wikis. It also emphasizes the importance of clear communication in delivering gameplay concept to players. Gameplay progression is used to introduce gameplay to the players in a strategic and engaging way. This can be done by letting the players start from ground zero, where they have no skills, gear, or abilities. Next is that the player can unlock skills over time, and the restriction mechanism can be experience, money, or any other factor. The third one is by giving players power that can be used immediately, but the power is lost after a boss fight or early iteration. Next, we move on to the bit chart. Bit chart is a crucial tool in game design that helps in developing the content of the game design document and provide a structured map of the game's progression. So every bit chart must have 15 elements. This is an example of a bit chart. It has all 15 elements. Next, we have the game design document or GDD. Game design document is a crucial document that outlines everything in the game, defining its entire scope, which programmers use to create the game. So, GDD acts as a reference for the entire team during a game production. Despite being time-consuming to create, GDD is used to facilitating effective communication within the team to ensure clarity and minimizing misunderstanding.
throughout the development cycle. Next, GDD is also used to emphasize the importance of prioritizing gameplay elements and adapting the GDD to suit the audience need to promote a better understanding and shared objective among the team members. So GDD has no official or mandatory form. So here are the examples of GDD techniques that we can use. Responsible design. In page 89 and 90, it mentions about balancing documents and ethics in game development. The advice provided may seem like common sense, but it stressed that common sense is not always common in practice. So as a conclusion, creating a comprehensive game design document is crucial for effective communication within a game development team. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I am Ben Mingao from Games Development in Section 2. In this video, I would like to do a book review from page 91 until 100. So first, I would like to share some tips for writing GDD. Remember, when writing GDD, please make sure that you are a responsible game designer. So first, you need to understand the abilities and limitations of your peers to apply only their talents and avoid their weakness. Second, always save your ideas into platforms such as Google Docs and also GitHub to be reviewed in the future. Next, please make sure that your documents are stay organized well to be sorted and also found back easily in the future. Last, you need to be well prepared for your demonstration, such as making cheat codes and even prepare for some extra contents in your prototype in case your marketing partner may request for it. Next, I also want to share some tips on how to design a character. So the first tip is shapes, as it can give significant impression to players. So the first type is circle, which means friendly, like this turtle. Second is square, which creates strong or dumb character. Last is triangle, which sometimes means heroic character, but sometimes it may also create sinister character, like this picture, especially in face. So the next tip is actually silhouette. So silhouette means a black shadow or dark shadow of the character, like in this picture. So with silhouette, it can actually create a unique personality easily. With unique personality, it can distinguish character easily, and it can help to identify friend or enemy well. And last, it can also help character to stand out against a background or work elements. Next, the tip is you can design your character based on these three main personalities. So the first one is humorous, which means funny character. Second is heroic, who saves the people or even saves the world. Last is tough guy, who looks like a villain, but in most cases, tough guys still do some heroic things. Last, in case your character has no license, so you can provide character customization to your player to enable them to design their own character based on their preference on personality. From this aspect, name, appearance, clothing, vehicle, home base, and even weapons. So I believe that with these three tips, the character designs will be better in the future. So I think that's all for my book review. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Bilqis Musa. In this video, I will present the book review level up for page 101 to 110. First, in the book has mentioned about characteristic. There are two types of characteristic, realistic and stylized. At the beginning, before you're starting to design a character, you should decide first whether your character will be realistic or stylized in terms of facial proportion, movement and humanity. Next is the game should use all parts to communicate with the player. For example, weapon. If the player have upgrade their weapon, the weapon should have the new appearance to make the player know that this is the new weapon that they have upgraded. Or maybe have the new animation or the faster shooting or have the speed of fire. Can make any changing to make the player notice about the upgrade version. For appearance, maybe if the character is got damaged, to let the player always notice that the character just got damaged before, maybe you might have make the character have blood or some dirty at their uniform. Next is second character. There are two types, second playable character and companion character. For SPC means that the player can control both character, can control multiple character, but if the player is controlling character A, another one character will be controlled by AI. But for companion character means the player can only control only one character and another one will be controlled by game's AI. For game that have many character, it should have mentioned this info, maybe not all, but should have mentioned this info to make the player easier to decide which character that should be used for the current situation. For example, if a player want to choose a character from support class and they need the character that have fast moving, of course it should be choose spy instead of sniper because sniper have slower movement. The last one is non-player characters or the character that not controlled by the player. I give the example here is the game Heyday. If you used to play it, you might familiar with this girl, which is always come to our farm and ask for product to exchange with coin or coin. Yeah, like this. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Ching Tia Hee and I'm going to present the level up books from page 111 to 120. So for the character proportions, when designing characters, it is essential to consider their proportions as they directly influence gameplay mechanics. Factors such as the height, reach, and body shapes determines how characters navigate the world and interact with objects and enemies. So we can see like just like fencing, the fencing and gameplay is a parallel. So drawing parallels between fencing and gameplay, we understand that just as fencer gauge distance to their opponents, player intuitively grasp gameplay's metrics. This understanding is crucial for maintaining immersion and player engagements. So the essential gameplay metrics encompass a range of parameters including character height, the width of the passage, walking and running speeds, jump distance and height, melee attack range, and projectile distance. These metrics provide a framework for designing balanced and immersive gameplay experience. And there is some image for the different gameplay metrics. And for there are also metrics for non-characters. While character design often emphasizes on the metrics, non-character games such as puzzles and strategy games also rely on consistent metrics for player interaction. Whether it's the timing of puzzle elements or the movement of vehicles, maintaining metrics integrity is vital for cohesive gameplay. For example, the Tetris player get used to the time required to rotate a piece into place and the time required for a piece to drop. Furthermore, why walk when you can run? So in game design, walking is a basic, but player prefer speeds. Use movement direction to guide them, but remember, walking is not a gameplay. Keep it dynamic with meaningful interaction. So from the image you can see, this is not a good walk gameplay. So we also need to varying gameplay pace. Varying gameplay pace keep player engaged and enhance overall game dynamics. From adrenaline feel, action sequence to movement of tension and stealth, alternating between fast pace and slower movement create a dynamic player experience. Movement mechanics such as rolling or dashing not only add depth to gameplay but also influence pacing and player engagement. By balancing movement speed and mechanics, designer can create dynamic and responsive gameplay experience. I think that's all from me. Thank you, everyone.
I'm Shajiang and now I'm going to explain what I have learned after reading a book Level Up from page 121 to 130. There are 5 common ways to jump: single jump, double jump, which is a jump during the mid-air, triple jump, which is the player can jump after the double jump, contextual jump, which is an automatic jump when the player approaches the ledge. Finally, a wall jump, which is performed when a player jumps into a wall, then they can jump immediately against the direction of the wall. This is a common jump zone for the player. They tend to jump in this area rather than the corner because it will make them very nervous and panic. Same applies to the safe landing zone. They usually like to land far more back rather than land on this corner because it will make them panic and insecure. Now I will talk about hoist and teasers. Hoist is a situation where the player can get a higher height than what they can jump. For example, in this case, the player uses his hands to get out the corner of the platform so they can reach higher heights. Teeters is an animation to play when the player has reached the dangerous corner like this to alert the player that they reached a dangerous zone. The playbook also show benefits about the shadow. First is it can act as a reference point at a 3D world. Second one is to ground the player so the player can feel they have weight. Third one is edge detection where the player can see an edge if their shadow changes the shape. The fourth one is distraction in gameplay, especially during the horror game. And the fifth one is the shadow can be used for gameplay, such as some games they use shadow as an enemy. So this is the drop shadow, which is a single dot below the player. There are three main things about the shadow. First one is to prevent shadow being two placed as one because it will seem like it is a bug. And the second one is to prevent shadow casting itself through the surface. And the third one is shadow must react different ways under the different lighting texture and surface texture. The book also shows about the question to ask ourselves when design a game rule in water. For example, how to enter and exit the water. Can we swim underwater or just on the surface? Can a character die due to the lack of air because no oxygen? Or the last one, can a character attack under the water? So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. Today I'm going to present you the page 131 to 140 about the level up the guide to great video game design. For my first topic, static camera from the camera views. It stays in a fixed position and it easily tracks game elements, useful in genre like survival horror, and beneficial for storytelling. It often uses vibrant animation and effects to keep the gameplay visually engaging. The example here are Candy Crush Saga and Plant vs. Zombie 2. Next, scrolling camera. It combines the benefits of static views with movement. It creates tabletop-like experiences with a God mode or isometric view. Camera control should be easy for the players to use. A proper tuning of camera speed with several options enhances player experiences and prevents frustration. Example here are Day of the Tentacle and Diablo 3. Next, parallax scrolling. It was introduced in 1982 by Iron in Moon Patrol. It allows the world to move along with the camera. And the care must be taken in level design to prevent players from outrunning the loading process. Moving up to the next one is force scroll. Players must keep up with a moving camera, and it adds pressure to the gameplay and is used sparingly. The example here are F-Zero and also Mario Kart, with applying the mode 7, which is very challenging due to the lack of true background wall. And programmers were inspired by traditional animation's multiplane camera, as the zooming in 2D games caused severe pixelation on non-scaling sprites, which create the effect of sometimes intentionally imitate the retro-style games. Next, in the first-person camera, it gained popularity with Wolfenstein 3D and Doom in the early 1990s. It most associated with the first-person shooters. Here are some pros and cons which related to the first-person camera. So here are some visual effects. The first one is blood splatter. Next, raindrops miss lens flare, and predator vision, and also blurry drunken cam. So here's DIMS. DIMS stands for Doom-Induced Motion Sickness. It occurs when eyes perceive movement but the inner ear doesn't. So here are some symptoms, prevention tips, and remedies to deal with the DIMS. So moving on to the last one, third-person camera, or we often refer it as follow cam. It reduces the effects of DIMS. by giving players something to focus on. Advantages include better visibility of the character and surroundings, but challenges arise in camera control and movement. Camera movement should be smooth and avoid collisions with objects and characters. For sorting, pay attention to sorting issues where the camera passes through objects, breaking immersion. And lastly, for the controls, it should be intuitive and player-friendly, avoiding airplane controls in favor of character relative movement. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Debbie, and this will be a presentation for our assignment 1. So for my part, I'll be continuing for the third-person camera. For the continuation, the next one is the camera flipping, which is ping pong, which will be caused by the corners. Another one is obstruction, where the cause is like something in the word disturb in between the camera and also the players. So the next is position, where it's either the camera should stay on the character while the character moving, or the camera should be laid back and also follow the character. So should game designer give up control? If yes, there are actually 4 methods to let the player control the camera. So the first one is the player can look around 360 degrees while running or just standing still. Another one is free camera, where player click on one button to trigger free cam to rotate 180 degree or to rotate 360 degree, and also it could be in the third person view or a first person view. The third one should be player are given selective control over the camera. It's something like a sniper scope. And the fourth one should be like a second person view, where when you click one button it will switch view to the other things. Like when you click on the telescope, you can see things through the telescope. If the game designer don't let player control the camera, there are quite many advantages, where the player have one thing less to worry about. They don't have to care about the camera at all, and also the game designers get to determine how the game will look, can focus more on the visual, or game designer can also force player to focus on whatever they want. So 2.5D game is like a 3D world environment but using a 2D gameplay. So the camera for this is isometric camera. Isometric camera is popular with building simulation games such as this. Next one should be a top-down camera, where it is also known as an old-fashioned camera or forced perspective, like this game. So the next is AR cameras. AR cameras is like virtual character appearing in the real world. So next is the special case camera, where it is a camera that is used for instances such as for underwater or for flying. Then we have tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is like it's used for tight environment. So for the camera shot guide, but the first one is extreme wide shot, where you can see that the character is far away from the camera. The next one is very wide shot. It is slightly closer than EWS. And the next one is wide shot, which the subject can be seen on the wide shot. And while for medium shot, you can see half of the figure is in the frame. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Fatin Ivy and this is the book review for Level Up from page 151 until 160. There will be 5 things that presented in this video. The first one is the camera shot guide, and then the camera angle guide, and then camera movement guide, and then other camera notes, and last one would be multiple player cameras. The first element is the camera shot guide. This is the medium close-up, which is MCU or the head and shoulder shot. As you can see in the example, it's shot from the head and shoulder of the character. Second one would be close-up. This will focus on the face of the character, which only take the head part of the character. And then extreme close-up or ECU. This part will focus on the upper nose until the forehead of the character. And then the cutaway. Cutaway is the transition of the camera is from the main scene to another scene in which they are both related to each other. Next is cut in which the camera shot is taken from the main scene and then focus on the item on the main scene. Next is two shot, in which there will be 2 characters inside the camera scene. Then over the shoulder shot, in which the camera will shot from behind of the shoulder of a character. And this one is noddy, in which the character will not inside inside the camera scene as if the person is inside the interview. And lastly, the point of view shot, which is taken from the point of view of a character. Next thing is the camera angle guide. The first thing is eye level, in which the normal angle guide. Second one is high angle, which is taken from upper side of the character. Next is low angle, in which the camera is tilted to look up to the character. Next is worm's eye view, and then bird's eye view, and then Dutch tilt, in which it gives such surprise element inside the camera shot. Next thing is the camera movement guide. The first movement is the arc, in which the movement of the camera is turning 360 around the character, and then follow, in which the camera will follow the movement of the character. Pedestal, in which the camera will move vertically. Bend, in which the camera will move horizontally. Tilt, in which the camera will be fixed on the position and tilt on certain angle. Dolly, which is the camera will move towards or away from the character. Zoom, in which the camera will zoom in or out of the character. And dolly zoom, in which the camera will zoom but try to keep the scale of the character the same. Next is other camera dots. There are 4 things that is highlighted inside the book. The first one is the rule of the third, which the second one is crossing line. The third one is always point the camera to the objective, in which the camera should give hints to the user. And then lastly, never let the character get out of the camera side, in which the camera should always make the character appear on the screen. Next is multiple player camera. The first one is split screen. Next one is zooming screen, in which the camera will zoom out if there are more characters. Lastly is camera in picture, in which there will be another character inside picture. That is all from the presentation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum everyone. I am Fatih Chazliana binti Nazri, and I will be presenting the Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design, page 161 until 170. So this is the conclusion from level 6. So make sure to choose the right camera for your game. For example, use the Hollywood style camera angles and shots to heighten the game visuals and drama. Treat the camera like it is the player's spotter. Never let the character out of the camera side. Remove the camera control whenever it becomes a problem, and accommodate multiple players using the game camera. Next, we go to the last 3 C's, which is control. So as we all know, this is the normal way people holding the controller. We can say that it is still difficult to press the button faster, but it is better than this. This never makes sense for a player to twist up their hands like pretzel when playing games. Always remember that humans are playing this game. Humans who has 2 hands and 5 fingers each. So this is how you control your hands by using the rules of thumb. Gamer's Guide to Flex or Fingering. So this is our hand. So for the thumb, the most flexible with reach, it is good for steering and fast response. And this one is index, strong and fast, used for response or hold move. And the middle is weaker but still usable for hold moves. It is decent reach. And ring, it is weak and poor reach but better for stabilization use. And the pinky one, it is mostly for support only. Controller can be keyboard for PC or laptop and touch screen for mobile phone. So the common touchscreen stream is virtual controller, a digital representation of the game's controller and buttons. So virtual controller is undesirable option, but it can still be used. So the technique to minimize the subcage can be clearly delineate the direction player can move their stick, have the joystick snap back to the center of the controller to prevent drifting. Visual your joystick must be suitable, don't be too big or too small, and keep your joystick and buttons away from the edge of the screen. Next, avoid button mashing. Button mashing is when players are not sure how to control the game. They will wildly or rapidly hitting the random buttons to get the positive result. So this can cause stiffness, numbness, and weakness to their thumb. So don't forget to take a break and do some exercise. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Go Chai Singh. My metric number is B20EC3004. Today I'm going to summarize my part of the book, page 171 to 180. The book name is Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design. So first of all, the importance of initiative control. Good game design consider real-world players' movements. Strive for uncomplicated controls to avoid button mashing. Basically, the player will do button mashing due to the curiosity or confusions. So take advantage of button mashing to showing some cool tricks or cool animation through the game. A complex control scheme leads to player fatigues and game down. So basically, avoid doing nothing while the player is doing button mashing or like that. So next is as the button is pressed, the action should happen. So basically, once the button is pressed, the action should be happen. Some people are not really into long animation, but somehow the button should once the button is pressed, the action should happen. And also balance long animations with flicks and some rewards to the players. Third is character versus camera relatives control. In a game, choose either one of it only to avoid the player confusions. Which one more initiative? Based on the book, the character relative controls is more initiative compared to camera relatives control, because the character relatives control will be like if the player press the left to moving left, the character will move the left whenever the camera placing. So it will be much easier compared to the camera relative controls. So next is motion controls, actuators and gyroscopes. Actuators provide feedback through vibration, like the recent game like PS5, like that. And gyroscopes allow the motion-based control like tilting. Example include Silent Hill, Heartbeats, Vibration, or Super Mario Galaxy level flippings. Consideration and design principle for motion controls. Basically, the consideration should be not all the players want to exercise the motion during gaming, and might account with lag and latency due to the motions, and avoid make all the game parts are motions, certain parts only making it as motion controllers. And then the design principle should be player should do the movements mimic to the real world actions and constantly provide feedbacks. And other design principle is simple gestures and don't overcomplicating it. So that's all from the review. Thank you.
Hi and good day, doctor. My name is Guo Xu with the metric number is 820EC4022. In this video, I'm going to summarize page 181 to 190 over the book level up. First, mine is level 8. First is HUD. HUD is a virtual screen overlay interface that communications key information to the lawyer, player, such as health amount and so on. Here are some of the HUD elements found on average game screen. Next is healthy ball. The healthy ball represented how close players are to death. To restoring the game and or level, it can vary from a filling ball or color changing a code to a damage ball or number percentage adjust with the gaming style. Next is target reticle. Target reticle helps the player to locate and or locked onto ranged targets, which is essential for shooting games. Here are some design considerations. Next is among getting display both clip and individual boots. It's possible enable easy access to switch between amount types. Always show amount for the currently weapon and indicate infinite amount with an infinitely symbol for clarity. Next is inventory. A well-designed inventory system in games should offer quickly access, visual clarity, stage challenges, sorting, obtain accountability, and safe sorting solutions to enhance player experience and immersion. Here are our design considerations. Next, scoring. Game scoring has evolved from simple add scores to high scores, then to detailed stars and feedback, and now online leaderboard. Next is positive message. Game use diverse rewards positive message like finish him to enhance player engagement and satisfaction. Here are some tips of effective rewards. Next is map. Game maps should be clear, interactive, and serrative agent offering detailed and manageable information. Smooth usability and addition is like direction tips for an immersive gaming experience. Next is
contains sensitive parameter is a core text that appear when players are next to object or character with which is in interactions. Here are some suggestions used. For example, the door opened or locked indicator. Finally is the clean screen. Dynamic HUD elements move off screen when not needed. Repair with a button press, while HUD less approach rely on character reactions, full screen effects, and settable visual cues. Moving leaves for guidance offer a temporal HUD during key events for focus information. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, Doctor. I'm Harish Naidu from Section 1, SECV4213 Computer Games Development. I'm here to present my assignment 1, which is the book summary of Level Up the Guide to Great Video Game Design, second edition, and my part is from page 191 to 200. The first thing which can be noticed on many real-time strategy and adventure games are icons. Examples of icons which we notice in the games are icons for tracking stats, weapons, magic spells, and etc. While making icons for our game, there are some things which we have to think about before making them. Firstly, we have to pick the right image for the icon. Second, we have to make sure the image is correct and accurate. Then, we have to color code our icons according to them. Then, we have to use shapes as a differentiator for the icons where color is not enough to make the difference. Furthermore, we have to try to avoid text in icons because some icons will be very small, and when we add text to them, it will be very small. And then, never ever combine several visual elements. For example, the text, logo, characters, we shouldn't combine them in the same icon. Then, the icon has to be surrounded with a strong black or white outline to make it pop off the background. We have to try to make each icon as individual as possible to avoid creating similar icons. Another good trick is to have text of an item's name appear if the player moves their cursor over the icon. We should ensure that the artists are the ones who are creating the icon. We should not let others to create the icon simply. We should also make our icons a little sticky in our game. When players select the icon, make it do something. For example, making a clicky sound or changing the color, creating icons for mobile games. An icon is used to represent our game. Some people, they might buy the game because the icon looks cool. So what are the traits for a game's icon? First is clarity. We have to make the images in the icon easy to see. Second is iconic design. The icon should represent the game in a single image, and we have to make it memorable because it becomes the game's identity. Third is color. The icon needs to have a right blend of colors. Furthermore, no text or numbers in an icon. You should consider skipping the usage of text in an icon because it becomes non-readable in the icon. Keep your symbols simple. Over the years, video games have developed their own vocabulary of icons. A few classic examples are Red Cross. They designates healing items. One up. Heart. Heart can be used as a replacement for Red Cross. Food, soda can, and pills represent energy or healing. Exclamation point shows surprise. No symbol means that cannot use or do not need. Skulls represents poisons, death, or danger. Coin represents money, and controller icons. When we have created the icons for our game, obviously we are going to place them on our screen. Let's see the ways to place the icons effectively in our game. Firstly, we should avoid putting in the middle of the screen because that's where the action of the game will be happening. Second, we should utilize the upper left side of our game screen because the upper left side is traditionally used for the most important information. Then, displaying icons along the bottom of the screen works well too. Furthermore, we should be careful of the bracketing effect. We cannot place the icon simply on our right side, left side, and bottom side in our game. It will make the game screen smaller, and we should allow customization options for players. When we have a lot of icons to display, we should consider letting the players choose what is most important for them. And we should also make sure players have a quick way to get back to the game. For example, the pause option, title or start screen of video games. There are so many styles to choose from. For example, the first is a movie poster title screen, which mirrors the cover of the video game box. Second is a heroic post title screen where we see the main character of the game or the hero of the game is shown holding some weapons. Thirdly, the enigmatic image, which brings all sorts of questions about the game. The image we are using for this type of screen should be important to the game. And then the logo screen. The large image of the game logo is displayed on the start screen. It might not be exciting, but very effective. That's all for my presentation. Thank you, Doctor.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Prof. Sharizal and Dr. Edora. My name is Irfan Mustaqim. So I would like to summarize the key points from the book Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design from page 201 until 210. So there are 4 key points in this page, which is players should never have to press a button more than 3 times to reach any interface in the game. So we cannot make players stick through screens for important information, give credit where the credit is due, and make the most boring screens as exciting and interesting as possible. So while we cannot let the players to press a button so many times, it will cause the players to get annoyed and make the players feel exhausted because they only want to reach some interface, but they need to press the button so many times. So how to solve this? We have to make everything in the game reachable within a button press of 2 with a maximum of 3. So as a developer, we need to consolidate the screen navigation and use the pause screen function to help players. So the pause screen is designed to give players break. We should include the save game, option screen, and inventory screen. So in the pause screen, the resume button is unnecessary because the players can just press the back button to resume the game, and we need to arrange the order of the options that we want to put in the pause screen according to the selection that are commonly selected by players. So next, there are three elements that you can put in the pause screen, which is option, save load game, and calibration tools, depending on the game. So option, we can have sound, volume control, controller settings, and difficulty settings that the players can customize according to their preferences. Also, we can have save load functions, which is very useful, and calibration tools to allow players to adjust the screen contrast. For the loading screen, we need to treat this as a part of the game because the players can have some information, extra information when they're waiting on the loading screen, such as in the photo. In this photo, there are info or tips on gameplay or control, and in this photo, there are some stories that the players can read during their waiting on the loading screen. So for the controller settings, we can include it in the option settings where the players can adjust the controller based on their preferences, and also we need to display the text explaining the control of each button so the players will not get confused. And lastly, we need to give credit where the credit to the people who developed the game and make sure to sync the font with the game concept. We cannot use the red color font in the black background, so we need to be mindful of font color and background color. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Lai Jen. Right now, I'll be presenting the content of Level Up, the guide to great video game design book from the page of 211 to 220. It's about Chapter 9, Everything I Learned About Level Design. There are several terms related to level. Stage is used to describe an experience that has clear separation to the activity, and acts and chapters are often used when the developers want the players to concentrate on the story of the game. Maps are often referred as the levels by the location of the environment, and world is the game location that is distinguished primarily by the visual of genre theme. Right now, let me show you the top 10 cliché video game themes that have been introduced over the years. First, we have Outer Space. It is one of the earliest game genre space shooter. Second, we have Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is adding the red and blue colors to gameplay, and they're also making the level more challenging. Next, we have Dungeon, Cavern, and Tomb. This theme offers a variety of traps, puzzles, and wave for enemy together with the treasures. Next, we have Factory Theme. This theme has become a staple of platforming games, and it offers the player with mechanics such as moving platform, conveyor belts, and etc. After that, we have Jungle Theme. Jungle offers the game designer with flexibility of the dungeon, but without the dull color and the right angles. Next, we have the famous spooky haunted house and graveyard theme, and this theme provides mood and story when the players slowly explore through the environment. Then we have the pirate theme. This theme is perfect for the high action gameplay, melee combat, and of course treasures. Furthermore, we have gritty and urban theme. This theme is populated by criminals, punks, supervillains, and mutants. Next, we have the space station. The space station has become a stand-in for a dungeon in sci-fi game, and most of them are infested by aliens and robot enemies. Last but not least, we have the sewer themes. The sewers have become more and more disgusting over the years, and it consists of hazards including the giant rats and alligators. So here are some keynotes in naming the level file name for the development team. First, keep the name to 8 character max. Second, it can be very straightforward and simple like Castle 01, and for the complex title, use abbreviated text. And fourth, make sure you don't overlap the naming convention, and last but not least, organize your level like manage them nicely in folders. Whereas for the level name that to be seen by the player, there are several points as well. First is functional, which is such as like number system that can give player an idea of the progress. Second is location, immediately give an idea to the player where they will be seeing or encountering. Descriptive, it can provide foreshadow or like tone, which is something like death from above, a nasty surprise. Next is punny. You can be creative by writing a punny title for games with sense of humor. Lastly, the author talks about what he learns from the Disneyland. He noticed that there are several aspects from Disneyland resemblance to a video game, such as Disneyland world resembles to a video game world, and different lands resemble to the different levels, attraction to the experience, and maybe the scene to the gameplay. And that's it for my part. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Prachina. Today I'm going to present my assignment 1 book review, which is from 221 and 230 for the book Game Level Up. So the topics covered here are ball mapping, goal setting, following procedure, big chat, and review use. So the first topic here, we have the ball mapping here. We have 3 examples here. So the first one talking how high can you get? One mapping here is the space of the screen to see how many Donkey Kongs could fit on the stack. The second one is the ghosts and goblins. Here it shows a map for the player to show the current locations. And the third one is the fighting game combat. It shows progressions of unlocked and unlocked characters. It applies foreshadowing technique, which is a technique to build an anticipations for the player. Next, I will talk about the goal setting for the game. So the first one is to escape or survive, which is about storytelling with actions and locations. The second one is to explore, where it allows the players to discover the game at their own pace. The third one is to educate, where the game emphasizes conversations and invitations for the game, for the player goals and gameplay. And the fourth one is to provide a moral, where the game uses choice and consequences to deliver the game's moral goal. Next one is to about following procedure, how to design the level how to design a game level. So the first one, you need to know the metrics where the game had to adhere to the game rules. The second one is to provide a standard structure where the game will have a top-down approach. The third one is the symmetry, where this symmetry will act as a guide to navigate players in the environment, patterns, mechanisms, and encounters. The fourth one is apply some randomness in the game, such as in enemy attack patterns. The fifth one is to make some mix in pre-designed elements, so to offset the randomness. Next, we will talk about the bit chart, which is a tool to organize and plan the production. Is to determine gaps and clumping in the game to seek for improvements. So here is the example of the bit chart. Next, we'll talk about the reusing the reuse. So we have to be smart with our art assets and repurpose them and learn the limitations of the game system and craft the game accordingly. So the image here it shows the reuse the art assets by retexturing the clothes and etc. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Afiq Farhan. So today I will present about the assignment 1, which is about the book review. So what are the topic covered in this assignment? The first one is the Gary Guy Gets Memory Mapping section. Second one is sandbox play, and the third one is the illusionary narrative, and the last one the Dave Anderson memorial mapping section. So before I start present, I will share to you about the types of 3D video game level design. The first one is the Alice level design, and the second one is Island level design. So Alice level design, Alice create a directed gameplay experience. Player have a goal to reach, and the level is built to help them to reach it. Your ally can be able to create a sense of claustrophobia, or it can be wider to give the feeling of sprawl and space. So what are the advantages for the designers when using the Alice? The first one is placing camera trigger zone is easier. Get dramatic with your camera movement. Remove the camera control from the game. Create script triggers gameplay easier. Easier to choreograph combat and traps. Bottleneck can be used to prevent backtracking. So what island level design? The island level design is a bit more challenging to design and build. The game camera has to be flexible enough to accommodate a wide variety of width and elevation. So I will continue about the sandbox play. So in the sandbox play, it explains about what are the advantages when the designers use the island design. So first one is give an extraordinary feeling of space and scale. Second one is promote exploration and encourage designers to fill in between spaces with secrets, additional mission and objective. Gameplay options are laid out in front of players like a small guessboard. So illusionary narrative is the video of equivalent of what happens in guts of comic book panels or between edits in a movie. Players feel in story when given 2 or more images or environments. So the last one is about the Dave Anderson memorial mapping section. So when drawing a top-down view map on graph paper, the size of player usually equals 1 square. All other elements such as treasure, mechanics, enemies, or objective are drawn in relation to size of the player, much like how you determine player metrics. So I think that's all from me. Thank you and hope to see you again. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Faisal bin Amiruddin, and this is my book review on Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design, page 241 to 250. Let's start by designing gameplay. So designing gameplay doesn't revolve on walking only. You need to include primary action such as jumping, collecting, climbing, swinging, breaking, and creating. We need to know what player wants, which is variety, surprises, backtracking. They want to explore more, so backtracking is a good game element that you need to implement in your game. Next is to avoid boring level. You can do this by adding spice to your level, such as change mode. You can add puzzle to the game, change it to 2D, add beauty shot, cutscenes, make the familiar unfamiliar, change the direction that player move, such as going up, going down. Use texturing and color. You make sure to use vibrant color to make sure your game pops out more. Add verticality, like adding mountains, sea, underwater caves. Here are some golden rules. Adding visible walls so that the player does not go to undeveloped areas and make sure they are in the game, and adding filter switches which are fear factor for the player, such as adding lava pit and another pathway. Wrapping up mapping is a way you design level in a team. So draw the level in different colors so that your team knows which is which. Next is use tracing paper. Make sure to be clear of your instruction to the team. Number the map pages. Design map according to your desired looks. Draw character then the map. Lastly, combine view of the map to see the final result of the level. Lastly is level design maps, which are elements that are required in your game, such as enemy spawn location or enemy aggro towards the player, collectible that add up to scores such as coins, cash, secrets such as secret path, secret ending, and secret items, obstacle like breakable object, trees, stones, doorway, and marked terrains such as quicksands, lava pits, and many more. That is all for me. Thank you.
Cek, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Faris Ibrahim, and today I will be book reviewing Level Up, a great guide to video game design, pages 251 to 260. I am given the part isometric maps, which is 2.5D maps. It is 2D, but you can see the depth, which is interesting. And then gray box levels, which are maps that are bare bones. For gameplay design reasons, this is great for developers to make work fast. You can see in my picture, these are the same maps but with different fidelity. Gray box. And then I also cover length pacing, which is how long should a map take for a player. Also emotional pacing, which is the sectioning of different gameplay elements and how they would resonate with emotions of the player. The book shows us there are 3 gray box types, which is playground, combat arena, and training ground. What about levels for games without characters like puzzles? Well, they can have new mechanics for each level. You can use themes, objectives, and colors, all to make the levels more recognizable. And here are the summary for chapter 9. Pause if you want to read. Read chapter 10, which is combat. I think the combat is stated to be more about the action, less than the violence. The book also states that action is also more popular because of its easier feedback loop compared to other types of emotion that can be received to a player. How do we as game designers be responsible about violence? We follow the ESRB rating, which have a lot of things to consider. as well as to consider how the player does violence, what is it end goal. You can see the example of these two different games. Even though they are both similar, the way they use violence determines their rating. Designing combat moves for your character. There are a lot of things to consider, but for now it's about distance. Are they close range, medium, long, or area effects? Even if they are just standing and punching, we have to consider, are they standing, low position, high, or aerial. Thank you, this is all for my part. I will pass it on to the next student.
Hi, Assalamualaikum, I'm Michael, and I would like to do some book review regarding level up game design. For my topic, I will discuss it about combat elements and combat system. For the combat elements, I will talk about attack attributes. For the combat system, I will talk about the hand-to-hand combats. For the attack attribute, I will be discussing about the attack movement, which is the attack direction, which is the other way that the attack can be casted into a direction at any point, either any elevation or any range, through a vertical or horizontal movement. It can also be defend by blocking the flow of the attack, and also be automatically blocked by casting the opposite direction. For the attack matrix, basically this one is just to add classification and class to the attack by adding values or data to certain types, which is the name, attack, effects, and cooldown of the attack. Next up is the hand-to-hand combat. So it is very staple hand-to-hand combat system in the video game. It also can be modeled from the real world, and there's a few combat staple that have been recognized and used in video game, such as this one, pokes, attack, kicks, knockup, stealth. This one either apply attack or either apply very special situation that makes the player in advantage either in positional or damage advantage. Next up is the fluidity and dynamics of hand-to-hand combat. This one basically we're just adding the fluidity, making the fight to be more smooth by applying connectors or mechanics to it, such as line timing. By adding certain timing, by create a timing, either removing the wind up or creating a very smooth game by increasing the FPS, we instill a very smooth combat system, and also make the combat much more much more effective. By adding lunges, we are able to create a positional advantage by creating the player to move to opposite position, and also create a very move set for the player to create. What is move set? Move set is basically a tree of attacks that can be created if the player create a very continuous movement either by design or by the player creativity. It can create a very high damaging and also can be blocked or parry during the combat chain. Finally, it is for move. It's basically the ending of the super chain, the combat chain. It can trigger certain cinematic or visual effect, but it's also the highest damage of the combat system. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Arif Baker Fazli. My matric number is A20EC0089. So this is my assignment 1 book review. So the page assigned to me is 271 until 280. So the first one is weapon. So when designing your game, you need to design a signature weapon for your character, and you need to figure how the weapon function. For example, when you design the archer, you need to give bow and arrow to the archer, so they can drag the bow and to release the arrow. Then the next one is you need to give player to inspect the weapon, so they will see the details in the weapon carefully. Then the last one is effect and upgrade. So this is for additional attack for the weapon. Then the next one is weapon function. So you need to figure out the function of the weapon. What happen after the function is like what your character will do if they got the weapon. And the effect on surrounding is when the weapon collide with the enemies, what will happen. And the next one is impromptu weapon. So impromptu weapon is like an instant weapon that can be found anywhere. So it can be anything also. For example, when you found a grenade on the floor and you can pick it up and throw to the enemies. And the next one is bullet time mechanics. This is like an advantage for player to move in slow-mo. You need to give limit because they will abuse the game if they can move slow-mo every time. So when in slow-mo, you also can give enhancement for shooting. So make sure the bullet time can be used in most dramatic moment. The next one is defensive move, dodge and roll, dash and jump. So for dash and roll, you need to make sure the player can get back on the feet and ready for counter attack, and the camera should be aligned carefully, because if not, you will end up position the camera in the enemy's body. And dash will be a booster for your character to do attack and powerful impact. And for jump, actually can add some like attack. Okay, the last one is shield. You need to decide it is breakable or not. Sometimes you can use to attack, and you can move the object by using your shield. So you can go down to the mountain with your shield.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hazim bin Azlan, A20EC0090, and in this video I'm going to do a review on Level Up book, page 281 to 290. So in these pages, they are mainly talking about the combat design. So the first thing first is the key element of combat design. We have timing and frame rate, which are ideally 60 frames per second to avoid lag. Next we have localized control, that combat moves should be localized to touchscreen and motion control to avoid excessive stretch. Next we also have lunges and combat change, some things like combination of movement. And next we have animation and movement. So normally in video game, when we attack, we tend to move forward to our opponent. Next is a elaborate wind-up in animation. While discouraged for basic attacks, they can add a depth for powerful attacks. And next in the key element of combat design is visual effect. Some things like particle or dynamic effect to make the combat movement more spectacular. So next we have the key element in super move. First thing first, we have the activation requirement. As we all know that before we can perform our super move or ult, we need to charge our ability. Next for the control change, some things like combination of skills, where we can create a super impact in combining a few movement. So next is counterplay, to create a fair gameplay where opponents are given opportunity to counter our super move. Next is visual effect, that normally super move comes with visual effects, something like fire or explosion. Next is damage and finisher. As the name is super move, you must have a super damage and bring a great finisher to our opponent. Last but not least is the rewards and achievement. Some things like when we successfully perform our super move, we receive points or any rewards. So last in this review, we have the importance of defensive move. Okay, first is ease of use. Of course, in video game, defensive moves are important. So the first thing first is ease of use. That normally in a game we can just only press a single button. Next is safety measure. Movement length should be monitored to prevent players from falling from the edges or platform. Next is recovery time after executing a dodge or roll. A brief pause allows players to reorient themselves and prevent exploits. Next is utility beyond combat. Dodges and rollers can also be used to navigate hazards, adding tension and excitement to the gameplay sequences. Last but not least is dash move. A quick and powerful move that can be used to ram into enemies or smashing an object or create an area or effect. Attack to hit multiple enemies simultaneously. So that's all from me. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad Khairul Azhar. My metric number is A20C0094 and this is my review on Level Up, the guide to a great video game design from page 291 until page 300. The book mainly focuses on combat, and the first element of combat is run and gun, where there are 4 shooting gameplays that was mentioned. And the first one is shooting gallery, the next one is aerial and vehicular combat, the third one is mounted range combat, and the fourth one is rail shooter. So all 4 of these shooting gameplays has different attributes, where shooting gallery is a fast pace and the user only needs to click at the target to kill the enemy. And then the next one is aerial and vehicular combat, where the timing is quite slow compared to shooting gallery. For mounted range combat, the game is usually based on high score, where the highest amount of wave that the player managed to eliminate is the highest score. For rail shooter, the programmer has more control on the game experience, since the movement and also the camera movement can be preset in the development stage. Why do we need to add scary elements? The author suggests that if we add scary elements, it triggers the player to make mistakes and end up dying in the game. By utilizing contrast, visual elements and also sound, a scary environment can be created, giving an eerie feel to the user, making them anticipate for things to happen. The next element is dealing special damage, where there are 2 examples given, which are extra damage and also lingering damage. By maximizing the use of special damage, it can make the game more strategy based, just like Pokemon, where the player should choose the correct type of Pokemon to increase the chance of winning. There are multiple ways to make it more challenging for the player to move around. As an example, when the user is hit, the element of stun, knockdown or knockback can be used. When the user loses control of the character, it increases the chance of them to being attacked. For movement constraints, the user can be off balance when running into a cliff or sliding when trying to stop while moving fast. The next one is health indicators, where the simplest indicator for health is the health bar, where the bar fills up the percentage of the player's health. And in Crash Bandicoot, the companion character is used to indicate, making it quite unique compared to interface-based indicators. Just like this one, Mini Aku Aku. The leaves on top of the head represents each life. The last element is death, where in the early stages, death is used to end the game fast so that more quarters can be inserted in a short period of time into the arcade machines. Now, penalty of death is less costly compared to arcade games. Rather than starting the game all over again, the players can continue from checkpoints.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. My name is Muhammad Umar bin Azam with the metric ID A20EC0095. And for this assignment, for book review, Level Up, the guide to the great video game design second edition, I will present for the page 301 until 312. So before we go to the level 11, I am going to talk about the death, what is it good for, and here on the page, the author wanted to emphasize that they want them to keep playing. Them is the player. So we provide players with a preview of upcoming levels, story points, or rewards. This will keep the player excited and motivated to keep on finishing the level without knowing what lies ahead. And the author also discussed on the conflict without combat. So there are various methods to reduce conflict without combat, such as timer, speed, limited option, limited space, precision, moral dilemmas, and cost. These are all will make the player strategically thinking. Next, we are going to the level 11, which is they all want to die. Who wants to die is the enemy. So next, what is the golden rule discussed in this book is that form follow function. So what it means about it emphasizes the importance of designing enemy based on their intended function and purpose. So for example, like this skeleton, do you know how the skeleton will attack the enemy? So we have to think about that. So these are the enemy attributes discussed, which is the size, behavior, speed, movement, attack, aggression, and health is what makes a character of the enemy. So these are all considerations that needed to consider, because when we design the character, we have to know the impact on the program, animation, and art aspect of the game development. Then we also know that the enemy size come in a wide range of sizes. So how the wide ranges of sizes will affect the combat dynamics. So they will also affect the attack hierarchy, health scaling. So bigger enemy have bigger health, and there are also attack response. So bigger enemy will be slower response, or they will have a knockback that will be hard for the player to push them. And there will also the variety and engagement, and there is also the emotional impact. Next is we are talking about the enemy behavior. So how does the enemy behave and move when engaged with player or when their health is low? So for example, we have the patroller, which will patrol the area. We have the chaser, who will chase the player. And we also have the shooter, who will start shooting at the player outside. And we have also the guard, who will guard the treasure before the player comes in. And we also have the flyer. Flyer and bomber, which is both can fly, while bomber can actually drop a ticking bomb, while a burrower can actually start spawning in front of the player out of the blue. Next, we also have the teleporter, which can easily teleport around the player. And we also have the blocker, which can block the player's attack. And we also have the doppelganger to confuse the player whether it's our ally or our enemy. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Shafiq. Now I'm going to explain one of the chapters inside the level up book called They All Want You Dead. So the first one is about the doppelganger. Doppelganger's enemies mimic the player's movement, attack, and AI behavior, challenges the player to face the version of themselves in the combat. So by combining different enemy behavior, players need to perform the threat analysis and make strategic decisions during the combat. This is the recommended enemy combinations. So the first one is blocker with the shooter. So the player tries to weapon down the blocker, and then there will be a shooter behind taking the pot shot at the player. And then the big chaser and the group of small player. While the player goes to the big guy, and then there will be the little guys coming attacking the player. And then the teleporter and the chaser. As the player tries to catch the teleporter, there will be a chaser attacking the player. And then the guard and the bomber. While the player is distracted by the guard, there will be a small threat called bomber attacking from the bomb. So next is the rapid. So this is about the speed and movement patterns of enemies significantly impact the gameplay and player strategies. Enemies' play speed and movement greatly impact the danger level and gameplay experience. So the speed is from stationary, slow, medium, fast, and quick. So each speed represents unique challenges for players to overcome, adding the depth of variety to gameplay experience. So next is about the movement style. During the combat, enemies showcase different movement styles that reflect their personality and impact their effectiveness. And the next is about the pattern and the behavior AI. So designing the pattern and behavior AI for enemies involves considering multiple factors, which are mobility, aggression, teamwork, defensiveness, and versatility. By coordinating enemy movement and behavior, designing creates dynamic and engaging combat encounters that challenge players to adapt and strategize. So next is about the bring on the bad guys. First one is the dramatic opponents. Debates are essential in order to create the tension of excitement in the video games. So next is about the spawning enemies. So this is effectively enemy spawning mechanics. Ensure that the enemies enter the battlefield seamlessly, preventing players from displacing them too easily. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello and good day. My name is Natasha Nadira, and this is my book review for the Level Up, a guide to great video game design by Scott Roger for page 3212-330. So currently we're at level 11, They All Want You Dead, and I will be focusing on the bring on the bad guys and also the alphabetical bestiary of choices. So a quick recap, we already have 3 points. So the next point is enemies should be fought and not avoided. So what makes a bad enemy design is that it is too hard, too cheap, or too much hassle, and this will result in player avoids the enemy. But this is not applicable for the game that needs to avoid the enemy. And then what makes a good enemy design is that we need to ask first, why fight the enemies. So firstly is that they have loot, so we can get coins, and then they block path, they have the key, and then you need to take their power. So in this case, the player can get upgraded armor, and then next is they're making fun of you, and then lastly is just fun to fight. And then the next part is that give enemy cool attack move. So here we have melee attacks, usually a short range, and then weapon combat. This enemy has hammer, and then next is projectile combat, which is long range attack. And then next is persistent damage, where the enemy will give a status effect to the player and the player will get damage over time. And then lastly is that telegraphing attacks, which cue animation before attacking the player. And then the next part is that not all attack will do damage. So here we have block or parry, and the enemy will not take any damage from the player. And then next is knockback, and then we have stun, and then a freeze, paralyze or capture, repair and heal. So in this case, the enemy can heal their allies. So next is buff. So here we can see that the enchanter can buff their nearby allies, and the player need to target and kill the enchanter first. And then next is steal. The enemy can steal player's inventory. Leech, where the enemy can leech on the player's energy. And then perform unexpected behavior. So in this case, the gameplay can be monochromatic or also inverted the screen. And then lastly, show vulnerabilities or resistance. So here, fire enemy is vulnerable to water damage. The next section is the alphabetical bestiary of choices. So enemies can be anything in games, starting from A, arachnid, battle-mech, criminals, dinosaur, evil creepy children, flying devil bedevil, ghost, henchman, and irradiated insects. That is all from me. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Naufal Hadi Syukrima, and today I will do my video explanation about the book review called Level Up, A Guide to Great Video Game Design. So continuing from the previous alphabetical order that enemies can be anything in game, for the J there is jungle beasts, the K killer plants, L lich, M mutant freaks and ninjas, O orcs, P pirates, Q the queen, because usually Finn have their queen inside their colonies, and R for robots, S for spaceship, T for treasure chest, U for unholy cultist, V for vampire or vampire bats, W for werewolf, X for xenomorphs or aliens in general, and Y for yor or animal man, and Z for zombies. Also, you can also create your own vows. There are two main things that need to do first. First is start with the theme. You can brainstorm the idea of the enemies based on the game environments. For example, if you create a snowy environment of game, maybe you can create like a snowman soldiers or something like that. Or you can also determine your foes with a story by determining the main enemy of your game, for example like a black dragon in medieval games. Also, you can tie the two of them together. You can create groups of enemy based on shapes, colors or physical attributes, and weapons or uniform that they wear. You need also to be economical. You can always reuse the models, animation and textures wherever possible to get the most bang for your production bucks. Like maybe you can have a red army and the blue army. The assets will be using the same texture models and animation, but the difference is that one is red and the other one is blue. You need to also think about the realistical aspect by deciding whether the enemies belong to your world or not. Like for example, there's not a chance like the xenomorph is living with us right now in our world, something like that. And then this is important, you need to make them look like an enemy. You need to make the enemy look like an enemy so that you can make sure the player can determine the characters are enemies by at least having a common enemy characteristic stereotypes like red eye, pointy horns, ropes, and something like that. And also you need to go against, you can also always go against expectation and styles by being creative, or you can do whatever you want. Like you can create a rabbit holding a butcher knife and can berserk in a certain of time, and something like that. You can just be unique with yourself. And then you need to make the players hate their enemies or boss by, first you need to always create a memorable introduction for the boss, and second one, make sure the boss does the bad things. And you can also create another points by having another characters in the game talk about how bad the boss is. And then you can also create a mechanics where the player will not kill the boss in the first encounter, to create history and anger towards the boss. And lastly, you can always create adding towns to your boss, because most of the time it will make the player more angrier towards the boss. Alright, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you for watching, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hi, good day. My name is Nurdina Sajida binti Azman. My metric number is 820EC0112, and this is the video for my book review, Level Up, A Guide to Great Video Game, designed by Scott Roger, from page 341 to 350. So for my part, I will explain about the non-enemy enemies, how to create the world's greatest boss battle, who the boss, size, meta, and location. Other than physical enemies that mentioned from previous topic, there is few enemies that can give obstacle to player, which are Gremlin, Tormentor, Time, and Human Competitor. So what is boss? Boss is the enemy that block players' progression and act as the climax or final battle for players. And there's a few ways to design a boss, which is learn move, next is new abilities, and next is combination of learn move and new abilities. Before designing a boss, you need to define the player's move and attack set. There's a few type of boss that you can design, which is Archhexman, Mastermind, and Global Threat. So when designing a boss, you need to consider these elements, which are what make the boss a worthy adversary, what does the boss represent to the hero, what does the hero gain by defeating a villain such as knowledge or armor, and what does the boss motivation and goal other than being a villain, and what the boss job, such as guarding a princess in a tower, something like that. And if you use game based on a licensed property such as Star Wars, you need to know the player's expectation when for the ultimate battle. Next, I will talk about the size matters. What happens if the boss is designed in big scale? It will cause camera issues. So how to solve this? You need to focus the camera on the boss, and you can also use elevation element, where it will allow the player to reach higher elevation or bringing the boss in lower elevation. And you need to avoid using a high camera angle or low camera angle, since it will de-emphasize the boss size and it will distort the perception of the boss, and it also may cause clipping issues. Next, I will talk about location of the battle. You need to choose properly where the battle of boss and player take place. It usually use a circular arena or linear screen wide walkway. And you need to include dynamic elements such as elevation, environment interaction between boss and the players, scrolling battles, and puzzle boss where the player need to survive and use the level object to defeat the boss. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Narfitra Kamil, and in this video, I will do the book review for Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design by Scott Rogers, page 351 to 360. Level 11. They all want you dead. Why not to create the world's greatest boss battle? Some game designers believe that traditional boss fights stop the flow of gameplay and can be too challenging for players, causing them to quit the game. However, there's an alternative approach to boss fights that can make them more engaging and personal, which is to turn the boss fight on its head. Instead of a big creature, make it about big drama and pivotal story moments personal to the player. This design opens up what the boss fight can be. Emphasize drama over scale, use intimacy to create urgency, better utilize existing assets, and told the story with a boss fight, not cutscenes. Next is level 12, the nuts and bolts of mechanics. Good levels need obstacles and interactions to create engaging gameplay. There are four main types of level elements: mechanics, hazards, props, and puzzles. Mechanics are objects the player interact with to create gameplay. Common video game mechanics include moving platforms, doors, pushable blocks, switches and levers, cranks, slippery floors, and conveyor belts. Platforms are a favorite mechanic that come in many varieties to challenge players. Some examples are floating, moving horizontally and vertically, tilting, exploding, and more. Next is doors. Doors may seem simple, but they require careful design consideration. How does the character open doors? Which way does the door open? Doors can create gameplay like cooperatively cranking them open. There are some potential door issues that can happen, such as clipping through player when opening, getting caught on door geometry. To overcome this problem, designers use can animations. Doors can get levels by requiring keys, puzzle solution, or quest completions before opening. Locked doors force players to find alternate routes when unopenable. Switches and levers are classic video game interaction mechanics. You should consider keep them visually simple and grounded. Use visual cues like glows or icons. Show effects when activated with camera cuts, sounds, and state changes. Pranks can require help buttons, mashing, or rhythm gameplay. For example, create challenges like having to fight while cranking. The next mechanic is hazards. Hazards are like mechanics, but they are designed to harm or kill the player if not avoided properly. Common examples include sticky pits, smashing blocks, blasting flames, exploding barrels, and laser turrets. When designing hazards, make them look overtly dangerous using spikes, flame, and poison visuals. Take inspiration from the level's theme for cohesive hazards. Use visuals like shape, colors, particles, and sounds to clearly convey dangers. Don't make players guess if something is hazardous. Use obvious visual cues and shortcuts such as spikes, flames, and poisons. Avoid instant death hazard like dropping rocks. That should happen when players make mistakes, not cheap kills. If a player dies to a hazard, they should realize it was due to their lack of attention or timing, not unfair design.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanjasha from 4SECV. In this video, I would like to talk about what I learned about game design in a book called Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design by Scott Rogers from page 361 to 370. So the essential topic in this video is to talk about an important aspect of game design, the balance between difficulty and challenge. So what makes the difference between a game that's difficult and one that is truly engaging? There is a difference between them where difficulty is to promote pain and loss while challenge is to promote skill and improvement. Imagine a curve reflecting a player's enjoyment throughout a game. Initially, it's all excitement because they learned, but then frustration kicked in. The fine curve dipped into difficulty. Our aim is to keep players in balanced flow, which challenge yet enjoy it. But how? One way to maintain this flow is through timing puzzles. These puzzles create tension and anticipation as players wait for the perfect moment to act. But there is a fine balance to have good timing puzzles such as discernible movement patterns, predictable timing, tight window for opportunity, and incorporating tiles. Another way is through props. Props shape the game world, adding realism. From deaths to fire hydrants, they offer obstacles or interaction opportunities. By letting players engage with props, we boost immersion and inject the fun into the game world. Also, there is a standard from memories start to create. However, it highlights creativity in game design, encouraging diverse breakable by unleashing creativity and introduce a range of breakable items rather relying on crutch like grabs. Next is to carefully orchestrating gameplay elements to balance the flow between anxiety and boredom in the gameplay, meaning that we must carefully orchestrate hazards, enemies, and challenge to achieve a rhythm that keeps players engaged. Let's take an example from a game called Peter and the Wolf. The game is designed to start with basic challenges and gradually introduce mechanics and hazards which make the flow control very well. Finally, let's talk about the flexibility of game mechanics. Take pushable blocks as example. While they may seem modern, they can be used in a variety of creativity ways, from solving puzzles to navigating terrain. By thinking outside the box and exploring the full potential of our mechanics, we can keep gameplay fresh and engaging. In summary, game design balances challenge, creativity, and player engagement. Differentiating between difficulty and challenge, leveraging timing puzzles, prompts and hazards, orchestrating gaming elements, and embracing flexible mechanisms are key to crafting memorable gaming experience. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is David Jen with metric number A20EC0159, and this is a summary of the Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design 2nd edition from page 371 to page 380. So the repetitive mechanic should be avoided as it might cause burden to the player. To keep the mechanic fresh and effective, the mechanic should be rotated in and out from the game frequently. The next one is the checkpoints. The purpose of checkpoints are to save the progress of the player and allows the player to have time to take a break and reassess their choice. And there are two types of checkpoints here, which are the visible one and the invisible one. The visible ones serve as the targets for the player to reach, and when the player reaches the checkpoint, they can feel a sense of accomplishment. But the disadvantage is its break immersion, as the checkpoints might look gamey to the player. For the invisible one, it provides an immersive experience for the player, but it might be clueless to the players when they're activating ones, and it also can cause frustration when because the player don't know where the last checkpoint is. And the checkpoint should be facing the direction where the player should travel in, and it also should be away from the hazards so the player don't take damage when they respawn. And the respawn animation time should be short so that the long awaiting time can be avoided. And the checkpoint should also be on a flat surface so that the collision problem can be avoided when the player respawns. And the last one is the game data should be safe. And the next one is the puzzle games, which are the challenges with correct answer. There are multiple types of puzzle games such as logic puzzle, mystery puzzle, math puzzle, rigid body physics puzzle, trivia or knowledge puzzle, traditional puzzle, liquid physics puzzles, visual puzzles, and the last one is the word puzzle. And the puzzle game should have a clear goal where the player can understand the goal is, and the puzzle game piece should be make it simple and have a clear relationship with each other so the player can understand the logic behind. And the required puzzle piece and tools should be placed nearby so the player can easily access them without moving too much. And the puzzle game can use movement or layouts for the player to recognize the pattern of the puzzle. And the puzzle game should also offer multiple paths of progression so that when the player is stuck in one puzzle, they can move on to another first. And the last one, the guidance and hints should be provided when the player is stuck on the puzzles too much. And the minigame and microgame. The minigame is a simple game which offers a variety of gameplay to the player, and the microgame is a minigame that can play in seconds. For the minigames and microgames, they should have simple controls to make them easy to learn, and they should also have a clear goal so that the player can understand what they should need to do. And they should be played in a short game time and easy, and not designed to torture the player. And the game should also add new things for each level so to keep the games fresh. And the last one, the game should offer the player customization so the player can customize the game. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day, Doctor. My name is T. Jun Hong, metric number A20EC0160. And I'm going to present what I understand about the book Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design from page 381 to 390. So this 10-page consists of four main points and general concepts, which is the power-up in games and what to define as well-designed power-ups and category of power-ups and love the player motto said by a Japanese game director. So what are power-ups? And power-ups can be found in every game and every genre of game, from driving to puzzle games to action adventures to shooters. And a well-designed power-up is a concentrated action, and a designer should be wise when creating power-ups and consider how the players will be collecting the collectibles or the power-ups. So there are four categories of power-ups. So defensive power-ups, offensive power-ups, movement power-ups, and game changer power-ups. Defensive power-ups help to boost the player ability to survive damage and continue progress in the game. And some of the examples for defensive power-up are health up, extra life, ability recharge, and invincibility. Next is offensive power-ups, and offensive power-ups improve or modify attacks, allowing players to defeat enemy faster, more efficiently, or more spectacularly. Movement power-ups will allow the player to improve an existing movement or add some new ones. For example, in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the players may fly through large part of the level using the propeller helmet. Game changer power-ups alter the dynamics of the gameplay and players' interaction with the game in a significant manner. And some of the examples for the movement power-ups are speed change and size change. And the last is the love the player motto, which is a motto that set by a Japanese game designer that he thinks that should be for all game designer. And what this motto means is that the designer can use many systems to enable player during the game. This is all for my presentation. Thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to Doctor. I'm Tion Zikang. So today I'm going to present my reflection on Level Up, the Guide to Greatest Video Games Design, second edition by Scott Roger from page 391 to page 401. So without wasting time, the author has mentioned about how to keep player interest in the books, which he gives two examples, which is the first one, grades. Second one is rewards. So what is grade? Grade in the books, the author mentioned that we should use the promise of treasure and item as a motivation to motivate the greeds of the players. It also gives some example like exploit Me Too factors so that allow the player to engage into the game more. Okay, so next is rewards. Rewards was another factors or method that can be implemented to improve the player interest. So we should expose to the rewards which are available early in the game to the player so that the player have the interest to continue the game. The author also listed some of the form of rewards. It can be scoring, achievement, treasure, loots, power-ups, souvenir, bonus, praise, surprise, and more. So about scoring, the scoring is the earliest form of rewards, which back in the prehistoric era of video games, the player only rewards was a high score, and only after 2000 leaderboard was introduced, which also boosts the probability of scoring into in game industry. So next is about achievement, like scoring but with personality. It also motivates the players to collect the achievement, commonly serve as purpose to point out how the game works or the gameplay concepts. Next is treasure. So treasure is one of the basic element in games. It usually comes as money or currency. So the author also mentioned that to make sure the treasure meaningful, an economic system is needed. So the author mentioned that we should provide a variety of good or service to allow the player to use their treasure. So next is loots. Loots are great stuff that we can purchase, but it's free. Usually we obtain from adventure or going to fighting boss and the item drop from it. It also can be a part of upgrade system. And next is souvenir. Souvenir often come in the form of trophies in the past, but right now it's also come in like videos and like set. Next is a bonus. So bonus usually created in the last minute. It may include person change, alternative modules, alternative mode, DLC, and more. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Tengku Nafika and I will continue the book review for Level Up, the Guide to Great Video Game Design, page 4022412. So continuing the bonus features, which are first multiplayer modes, but not necessarily directly related to gameplay, for example asset trading, chat. Second is alternative endings, so make it to be the player choice as a way to get them to replay the game. And also cheats, but disable cheats until players have played through the game once. So how to win at losing? By offering praises to make the player feel good, to stroke the player's ego, so as a return they would want to play again. So how? For example, play success music, funny reaction to the hero, and also particle effect. Next, level 14, multiplayer. So in multiplayer, there are several types of players connection. First is head-to-head, where two or more players compete against each other in real time on the same game system. Next is network or peer-to-peer, where two or more players play with and against each other in real time on machines connected via the internet on one. So it's the same network. Next is client or server. So the server is the computer running the game code. So the clients are the players, computers that connect to the server. And then ad hoc Wi-Fi. This connection allows player to play device to device without cables or network. So multiplayer play styles. First is competitive, where players have the same objective but work against each other. And also cooperative, players work together to achieve same objectives. And conjugate, where players share the same gameplay space but not the same goals. So, for example, team deathmatch, fighting, race, gambling, knowledge creation, and more. But how many players is the right number? So for this question, you have to think of what kind of the interactions between players, will the characters run into each other as they play, and how quickly will players move around the play field, die and respawn. So you should always stress test your game to see how many plays you can handle before it breaks. Next is massively multiplayer online role-playing games, MMORPGs. So these are some of the tropes to include in your game design. Buffing, character customization, chatting, crafting, economy, and grinding, and also instant dungeons. So that's it for my book review. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Sen. This video is about the summarization of 10 pages selected for me for the level up books. So the content consists of the multiplayer as well as the monetization. For the multiplayer, the features of MMORPG is that it should have the item collection, open world structure, PvP, griefing, guilds, player housing, raids, spawn camping as well as the trading or auctions. Besides, for the planning of the level, one should always ask for the questions such as what is the gameplay, what is the story, what is the theme, what makes you memorable, as well as the design for all kind of stuff. Besides, for the mapping of the level, the developer should always keep the map simple by using simple shapes. The developer should also mirror the map by reusing their map design to ease their production time. And then they should also use the walls to provide a clear direction for the player. They should also set up defensible areas so that they can allow the player to prepare for the fight. Besides, the no man's land should be also included to make the game challenging. The developer should also make good use of spawn points to maintain the game stability. They should also make sure the players can find their way around when playing the game by providing memorable objects. Last but not least, they should also provide alternative routes of approach to make the game unpredictable. While for the building of the level, some features should be taken note is the check collision, playtest, textures, color, lighting as well as the sound. And then for the monetization topic, way to monetize is to having a pay to play, having a in-game advertising, virtual goods as well as the DLC. And then the typical business model for monetization is trial, freemium, free to play, DLC, season pass DLC, membership, premium as well as subscription. Well, the offer for cashing in is about the chance, which is to increase the stats and as well as the single use boost. And then we have the customization, convenient, such as speed the level up. And then we have the exclusivity, such as having a rare items as well as the progress, such as soft get as well as hard get. And the last thing is the corrosive monetization methods included currency obfuscation, bundling, and ramping. So that's all for video. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. I'm Tom Chanyu, and today I'll be presenting the content from the book Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design, specifically from page 424 to 434. So previously, Thierry left off from the Poisson monetization techniques, and we talk about the currency obfuscation, bundling, and ramping. And there's another two more, which is the fun pain concept, whereby we cause the players to have some challenges, but at the same time, they feel fun when they get through the challenge. And another one is the reward removal, whereby we can set a certain limit or time limit on an item, and the player has to pay to renew the item. Now let's look at some ethical monetization techniques instead. So the first is we should provide alternative ways for the players to earn currency instead of just paying. Then secondly, we should warn players that the game costs money to play so that they know what they are getting into. The third is if they pay, we should provide discounts, especially for early adopters of the game. And lastly is that we should let the players back out of the play option. So for example, if they subscribe to a plan, we should allow them to cancel the subscription. Now let's go to level 16, which is some notes on music. So what do you need to know? So basically there are two types of music. The first is licensed music, whereby you are buying music which is already published. Secondly, you can hire composer to create original music for your game instead. Now, as a game designer, we should also know some useful musical terms so that when we communicate with the composer, we can properly provide them the idea that we are thinking about. So these are the terms. We have accent, beat, chord, instrument, mood, octave, pitch, rhythm, tempo, theme, tone, upbeat, and volume. And then next, instead of just having a single background music, we should have a dynamic score theme, such as mystery, warning, combat, chase, movement, victory, or walking. So that for different scenarios and scenes, we can have a different music which fits with the scene and what's happening. Another thing which is important is sound effects. So we're going to take a look at two, which is we should have movement sound effects and also attack sound effects so that it increases the realism of the game. And this is it for this part of the content. Thank you.
Hello, doctor. My name is Zhao Xin. My metric number is A20EC4053, and I'm from section 2. This video is a presentation assessment 1 for the book review. And my page number is 435 to 445, and the intern page include the level 16 and level 17. This page uses the visual game workshops from simple props to detailed experience to make the game more immersive. Make sure they match the game's style and follow the copyright rules. And next, the 2-week short just returns to go well with the gameplay. Ugly them with animation and make them egaging keep shots feel real life better and accessible to everyone. Next, start think about the shots design early in the game making process to the mix it in shortly and effectively. Use the press simply with this to get a big emotional and with the impact the way without miss up the game follow. Twice video games typically like the for no motion video or animations one can follow something with the game player alone. Blend them in will use the short smart level design and clean was to fitness. When reach the price for the category, keep the story telling and the dialogue is short and shaped to keep the animation moving and players engaged. We give over the some table types for this. Make sure NTS screens work well with the game player to boost the game's feel, cutting tips and again short take this idea and apply them to the project. That's all. Thank you, Doctor.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Abdullah Nafis. My metric number is A20EC4060. So the title of my presentation is From Game Idea to Funded Project, a guide for game developers. Mainly it is from the page 446 to 456 from the book Level Up, the guide to great video game development. So let's dive into the presentation. So at first, breaking down the script. So we need to have separate voice lines by different situations like opening, cutscene, climbing, collecting items, health, yells. So for every situation, there will be a separate voice line. Then include notes for emphasis and the emotional state of the actor to portray. And then use onomatopoeia, like that word sounds like imitate sounds like ah, so that this sound can help the actors to understand the desired sound for like hitting or death. So yeah. Next we have finding your voice. So record a temp track to help with the timing and the blocking purposes for different during development. Next, hire professional voice actors so that they can give their voice for the final game for a more polished performance. And then a voice director who can help to cast the actors and book studio time and cast the voice in different situation and more perfect way. Next, the pitch equation. So it will be like from game demo, then game design document, presentation, and atlas piece. And then game demos are a lot of work, but they can be the best way to sell your game to a publisher. And demos show publishers that the game developers, they are serious about making the game and allow them to get their hands on code. Then we need to, for the funding, we need to make sure who is paying. So how the funding of the video game has changed over the time. Then early days, the developers funded games by themselves, and then rise of publishers so that they funded the game. Publishers manufactured game and consoles and hired developers. Next, in the mid 80s to the early 2000, so publishers controlled the most console video game. Then digital distribution opened up new markets for game developers. So what is the digital distribution? Actually, this is the App Store, which is Apple App Store, Google Play, then digital distributors like Steam, Xbox, also crowdfunding like Kickstarter, Indigo, and then web hosting, and also social media like Facebook and traditional publishers like EA, Sony, Nintendo, Activision, like this. So they can also now distribute the game. Next, we are at the conclusion. A well-written VO script can help to improve the overall player experience, and also getting your game funded can be a challenge, but there are so many options available right now. And the best way to get funded is to have a great game idea and well-developed plan. So thank you for playing.
This is my presentation for the Level Up book, page 457 to 468. Troubleshooting in game production. So according to the author, the biggest thing that fails any game is bad planning. So plan ahead and try to log the design as soon as possible in order to avoid any kind of changes in plan every day, and also test your game to the limit, because sometimes the gamers can break the game. So make sure that you have tested it so that they are not the ones testing the game for you, and also be culturally sensitive. And he also talks about how you should test your game over and over again, and also test the story of the game so it makes sense, and try to get as much as feedback for your final results, so it's not an average looking game, and focus on the group you are making this game for. The three systems he talks about. So the first one is emergent. Emergent is basically you are just leaving the game up to the player and thinking that, okay, let them figure out the game. I'm not going to guide them too much, and there won't be much in the storyline, which is not the best approach when it comes to designing a game. And also for vertical game development is he's talking about creating a demo first for the game and then building up on that. It creates a very detailed and very systematic game, but what it does is creates crunch time. And the author talks about few things to do to avoid the crunch time. The first is to schedule your work and also allow revision, allow learning time, and allow a lot of mistakes that you can make, and have a good communication within your teammates. Moving on is the horizontal game. So horizontal game is basically you design all the elements of the game all together before putting any details. And when it's all confirmed, you can pretty it up and make it more detailed. Then he also talks about if you want to make a sequel to your first game, what are the things you should consider? So he's talking about to keep the baseline, your first game as your baseline, and try to improve on it. And do not take away the things players liked about your first game, and be more creative with the naming and make it new, but not so new that it feels a slightly like very different game from the first game. And a few advice for game designers is, as you are a human, you will make mistake and you will have doubt. So open yourself up for more learning and keep on enjoying playing games, and give back to your players, give back to your audience so they have a connection to you. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you.